To Do You Believe on Paranormal Zone TV. Thanks so much for being here tonight. And for those who may be new to the show, if you would please subscribe, I'd appreciate it. And please don't forget to give the show a like. So tonight, I'm having an awesome show. And I'm so excited to have with me tonight Bill Hall. He is an author, a lecturer, a paranormal investigator, and his website is halloftheparanormal.com. Got it. Yeah. And he has, he's got five books, Bill. You have 5 books that you've published. And tonight, let me see, I had a show of your books. Oh, here's your books.
There's
Here,
3.
yeah. Okay, here's your books. These books all can be purchased on Amazon, or you can go to Bill's website. And anyway, so I'm really excited to have Bill on the show tonight. Let me bring him on. Oh, you know what? So listen, so tonight the show is on his latest book that he co-authored with Jimmy. How do you pronounce Jimmy's last name? Petonito? How do you pronounce
Petonito.
Petonito. He's Italian. And so this is what we're going to talk about tonight. They're phantom messages, and these phantom messages can be life-changing to those who experience them through many forms of communication. So let me bring Bill on. Hey, Bill, thanks so much. Sorry for the problems. Oh my God.
Oh, that's okay. I know. That's a host's worst nightmare. I know.
It is. I'm telling you, it is. But thank God I have a little bit of tech savvy. Anyway, so tonight, Bill, you know these phantom messages. In your research, I know that according to your book, people have received messages not only from loved ones, but from ETs and other forms of communication. But are most of the message they get from loved ones?
No, I wouldn't put it in that. I wouldn't frame it like that. I would say that what we did is we categorized phantom messages because there's different types. There is the and Jimmy calls this the phantom messages for the paranormal chicken soup for the paranormal soul kind of thing. The people the loved ones, that kind of thing. That certainly is the category. And there's other categories. For example, as you mentioned, extraterrestrials. One of the most bizarre categories are what we can only describe as time slips, for lack of a better, whether they appear to be time slips. And some of these involve hearing an event happen, like you're hearing something from the past or hearing something from the future, or getting a letter or message from the past, or, so that kind of thing. So those are time slips. So we have extraterrestrials, we have, people that are trying to help you or just saying hello. And we have, these time slips. So we have a variety of these messages. And what we also looked at is, are they alone?
Bill, can you talk more into your microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry. How am I now?
Yeah, talk louder.
Am I good now?
Better.
Okay, sorry. My nose gets bigger as I get closer, so
but that's okay.
Forewarned,
we want to hear you.
If you're watching, social distance is recommended. No, so with these messages, we looked at not only the different types, kind of trying to categorize them, and then we also looked at, are they alone? Did they happen just on their own? Or are they part of a larger haunting? As we know, it's very common to have different kinds of things that we would classify as phantom messages happen during different kinds of hauntings. But so we want to look at that in the context of a haunting, but also ones that where there's no haunting whatsoever, and then all of a sudden this happens. And we wanted to look at things that just happen once out of the blue at a really strange, unique time. And we also wanted to look at the ones that, went on for long, long periods of time. And so there was quite a variety there. And that kind of was the premise of what we wanted to do. I mean, Jimmy and I, like most of us, are fans of the phone calls of the dead research, and we thought, well, what is happening now? And there has been some updates and great research on it, and there's all these messages across the paranormal literature and within our own cases and things. Let's take a look at let's extract all the phantom messages and just look at them and see what we can find, similarities. And we do find similarities between some of the time slip incidents that we see with extraterrestrials. We see that with time slips with loved ones. So we see that's the same behavior, almost like they're on the same bus, even if they don't know each other. It's kind of the same modality or something, because the characteristics and indicators are very much the same, whether it's, Uncle Nick who passed away and is leaving voice messages, is the same modality as that, as with John Keel is experiencing down, with the Mothman. So it's the same characteristics, I guess, really is the right word. So we looked at that too, and how are they similar, and how are they different, and we asked all those questions. Who seems to be behind? And in some cases, of course, it's unknown entities was its own classification, because it was just we don't really know. There's no really indicator of that.
Well, these phantom messages are also they come from a lot of things. Technology. They send pictures. They send emails supposedly, and letters. And then also, people have to be aware also that their loved one may be trying to contact them by having them find an old postcard, from I understand, like an old postcard that would have a message on it. Also, numbers, I read. Numbers are important to the those who have passed on.
Well, what we looked at were we tried to look at things that were as concrete as we could. For example, one of the photos was a text of the grandmother. It was the mother and daughter texting, and they're talking about the grandmother, and all of a sudden a picture of the grandmother comes across in the phone. They're each complimenting each other. They're saying, "Oh, wow, what a lovely picture you have of grandma." And they're like, "I didn't send the picture." And the other one, "I didn't send it either." Neither one of them even has that picture on their phone. So that's the crazy thing about it. So when we look at that, we're like, okay, now we have a few characteristics, right? We have a definition of phantom message. I should have defined it, which is unknown. It's unknown, unexplained, and it's not something that you sought out. I mean, in some cases we did include things that naturally you're there in a case and it's part of it, the phantom message. But we tried for these messages not to be like EVPs, somebody trying to, but just weird messages that come to you. You're not necessarily looking for them at all. They're unexplainable, and they just happen. And the people who are have all different impacts on them. Some of them just shake their head and say, I don't know, and others say, I think that's him, or so everybody comes away with these things, as you can imagine, with their own with their own thing from it. I mean, I had my own phantom message experience, and it could be coincidence, because mine is what I would call the happened one time. I had an indicator, not two. So, I had nothing to confirm it. The cell phone had a picture of grandma. You know what I mean? If it was just, oh, look, an odd text with a number on it. Did you send that? No. Did you send that? No. Oh, that's weird. Maybe that's grandma. Well, yeah, that's a little far-fetched. But now they're on the phone. They get a picture of grandma. Neither one sent it, and it's not even on either of their phones. Well, now we have another indicator, another layer, and that extra layer is confirmation that the first layer was not just a weird technical thing. You know, like some people say, oh, we get all zeros, that means it's unassigned. No, that doesn't mean it's a phantom message. So we do have to be very wary of technology, and that's one of the things that Jimmy and I did. And we even asked different people, and you know, it's hard to say, you know, well, did you have an expert look at it? You know, it's hard to really define who the experts are, but everybody we asked for any of the stuff that we presented have no idea. You know, they'd come back and say, you can't do that with a cell phone, or there's no way you can do that, or this, you know. So, you know, I don't know, but that's why we look for those multiple indicators. You know, it's one thing to say there was a technical problem with the answer machine, but it's another thing when you can't say it's a technical problem when now you got the message and the person leaving the message that's deceased in our example is talking in real time and using references that happened since they died. When that's the case, now you've got multiple layers of indicators. You know, you've got evidence because it's right on the thing. You've got multiple, you know, witness people because not expect people to lie, but even myself, if you're the only person who sees it, sometimes you don't even know what you saw. You know, you doubt yourself. It's always nice to have other people, hey, do you see this? But on top of that, you have all of those things together that really makes for an interesting case. So we saw some of those too. The answer machine ones are really, really amazing. And the commonality in a lot of the loved ones are, as soon as, you know, you tell X and they stop calling. But you know, and you know, and there's a question by behavior and everything else whether they really are dead, but that's a whole other discussion. I don't even like to assume that they're dead. They certainly don't appear to act or sound like they're dead or even care about anything. And there are some bizarre individual cases. About 10% of the cases you hear some weird stuff, but by and large, it really is fascinating. And there, you know, we had a case where you know, a lady fell and, you know, it was in need of help, and it was you know, the phantom message that did it. Some phantom messages where it was you know, calling the son-in-law's cell phone, calling, you know, the daughter, or using the cell phone, and, you know, so weird things like that. With technology, you know, a lot of people say it's ridiculous. You know, how could they use technology? But it appears that the knowledge of the technology is not something, and this is a leap, but I don't know if I can explain it right. And there's a few cases that kind of indicate that to me, but it's almost like they get the end result. They don't have to understand the technology. So in other words, if the words appear on your computer, I don't for a minute believe they're typing them in any sense of the word or any form of the word, but they're getting the words on there. And this is kind of par for the course in the paranormal. For if somebody says, oh, you know, the message, you know, came to me mentally, like in a lot of extraterrestrial types of cases. So we do know, you know, if it's the writing, it could be on a wall, it could be with paint or chalk, it could be a letter. And we had a magic doodle board that left messages. So really manipulating anything. And a lot of it depends on the messenger. And what I mean by that is, you know, the context of it. If it's within the context of a haunting, you know, the object could be very different than if it's something like a time slip, which I believe doesn't necessarily have any quote unquote agent behind it. I think it may just be You know, the frequency such that it just happens to intersect at the right moment, and you get this. I mean, it's not a new idea. Science fiction has been talking about it for years, but now it's becoming, you know, quantum physics. But that to me is what it appears like. And the example I would give with that, oh, unless I don't want to cut you out.
No.
Please interrupt me anytime.
No, just talk louder. Talk louder and I'll be happy.
Oh, what's that?
Talk louder.
Oh, okay. Louder. All right. All right, my nose is going to get bigger, I warned you. So, one of the ones who demonstrates that to me, that, you know, and as humans, we naturally ask why. You know, we always ask why. And it's a difficult question to ask, especially in the paranormal or anything in life. You know, why are there, you know, weird insects that crawl out your eyes, that, you know, bizarre, you know, why do these things exist? We don't know, you know. But, or we may know, but we always have other questions. Why? Why? You know, because that's, you know, that's what we did as a kid, and hopefully we still keep doing it. But this is one that naturally makes you go, why? It just does, you know. And my answer, and of course none of us really know, but, you know, I'll tell you the case, and, you know, certainly you can decide, but I don't think there's any agent involved here at all. I think this is just a time slip, and it's a time slip of a very horrifying time. It was 9/11. So this case we call Calls from the Future, Predict 9/11, and was David Fritz in Cape Cod, and he was a substance abuse counselor, and so, you know, a responsible guy, you know, doing his job, always had a cell phone by the side. About a month before the towers go, he gets a message on his phone call, and on his phone. He doesn't get to it in time, and so he opens it up and he tries to look at the number. He doesn't see a number thing, and it's weird. So he goes to play the message, and it's 3 minutes long, and it was horrifying to him. He didn't know what he was listening to, other than he heard. It was more the feeling he got from the composite of sounds than the way he explained it to us, than the actual sounds. But some of the things he got out of it, and before he even saw the towers fall, which was he heard metal clanking together. He heard screams. It sounded like a disaster scene to him. And, you know, he didn't know what it was. But it wasn't like, you know, if you got a phone call and somebody was, and you heard like this stuff on the other end, maybe it's a crank call, or the television's on, or, you know, something. It may disturb you, certainly. But this was different. And he made it clear to Jimmy and I that this was very, very different from any of those other kinds of calls. This was something that you just didn't. And we heard this. This was a consistent thing that we've heard from especially these types of impactful phantom messages. We hear the same thing when they, you know, leave these any message or whatever of this kind. We heard it. But it's not like I just heard a disaster. It's like he knew that this thing was like cool, and that it was horrifying and made him physically sick, made him feel sick. And so he deletes it like, oh my God, what happened? It's just had this energy over him that just was, oh my God, you know. And he goes on about his day. He gets another call next day. Same thing, goes straight to his voicemail. 3 minutes long, same message. Next day, gets another one. He's like, what the heck? So he calls some friends again. He doesn't say, listen to this bizarre he doesn't say, listen to this message going to make you feel sick. He says, listen to this weird message I got. He plays it. One of the ladies runs out of the room. She can't even listen to it. And everyone agrees. They're horrified. And, you know, as he said, you know, we're all people, you know, I mean, he's a counselor. It's not like he hasn't seen stuff. You know, they all watch horror movies. They all, you know, so, I mean, you know, you hear something like this on a phone. It's he says, no. This was, you know, very, very different. And so this continues. So after this, he says, that's it, I'm done with this. So he goes and he says, I'm getting a new phone. But not only am I getting a new phone, I'm going to get a new carrier. I'm not even going to have the same phone service. So he gets new phone service and he gets a new phone. All the calls stop until the morning of 9/11, about an hour before he gets one last call. And this was to his new phone with his new carrier, with his new phone number. He didn't even keep the same phone number. This thing comes to his phone. And again, he's calling the phone company. They have no records of these numbers or anything. Nobody can tell him. There's no record of it. It's on his phone. Everybody thinks, of course, he's crazy because it doesn't make technical sense at all. That can't be. Sorry, it's not, you know. And so that happens. And then, of course, 9/11 happens. And, of course, he's like, oh, my God, this is like what I was listening to. You know, we asked him, do you think that you heard, you know, 9/11 happen, you know, a month before it happened? And, you know, he says, I honestly don't know. He said, but let me tell you, sure sounds like it.
Wow.
And so that was, right? I mean, that's what I would call, you know, a time slip. And like I said, that makes you beg the question, well, why would someone warn us if we can't stop it? And that's where I say, I don't think there was an agent behind it. Not everything is directed by something. Some things just are. And if that's a time slip, it doesn't have to be consciously called. Or maybe it is. You know, I mean, who knows? I'm open to anything, but I caution people to really get, you know, whenever people behind ghosts and stuff, it always scares me because if somebody doesn't see you at your best, they could certainly come to a whole other conclusion of you. And if you're seeing an entity that has crossed worlds, they perhaps may not be at their best either. And you might judge their whole existence based on how you see them when they're not even in their own environment and don't want to be. We don't know. Maybe they want to be, maybe they don't. Again, I like to ask all these questions, keep it open, because people tend to get in these modes of, this is the way the paranormal works. You know, ghosts are this, you know, a ghost that you don't recognize, an apparition, you know who they are. And then you have residuals, and they're just memories go over and over, and this is the way it works. And then there's and that's the way it is. And you go outside of that, and I think that's where we run into a lot of trouble, because I've been fortunate or unfortunate to be close to Mark D'Antonio, our resident, as Paulino calls him, Buzzkill, who explains why every cool photo you have is nothing. But but you know, but you need that, and but I think that does. I always naturally, and it might be it's the magician in me too, but you know, I always naturally try to think, and I always urge people to do this in the paranormal, but not just in the paranormal. When this is a cool thing that no matter what you're doing, business or anything, try to prove yourself wrong, for God's sake. You know, use science. Try to think, could it be something else? You know, Bill Hall thinks it's quantum physics. All right, but hey, I'm Bill Hall. Let me take a pad. What else could it be? Could it be something? Maybe I don't believe it's anything else, but what else could it be? And I'm open to that. And will new information change my mind? And, you know, so that's the kind of thing I think, you know, we need to continue to do. But that's the kind of case. I know I babbled about that. But the time slips fascinate me. And there are time slips that... you know, again, appear to be, and I'm sure, I know you've heard it many times, many listeners I'm sure have heard it, where, you know, a lot of these ghosts seem to be going about their daily business, you know, and that's, of course, that gets to the whole question of, you know, are they dead, or are they just living somewhere else, and, you know, what is
or living in your
and,
house with you, or they're living in your house with you.
I'm sorry?
Or they're living in the house with you. Ghosts.
Oh, the people who spend them sometimes.
No,
yes,
ghosts living in your house.
Definitely.
You don't see them, but they're living with you in your house.
Well, I mean, as far as phantom messages go, there's ones that occur with hauntings, but as far as ones without hauntings, the contact, if it's known, again, a lot of contacts are not known, or we may, label them as something else, like an entity or unknown entity.
Well, there's
the
also
that we can,
like messages that I get.
Recognize.
The messages that I get messages all the time. They're touching my face. I don't know who it is. I know my house is haunted. I'll take my slippers off and when I'm watching TV, and then when I look down to go get them, it never fails. Every single night, my slippers will be point to point. You know how you take them off and you just they just throw off? But when I go to look at them,
right.
they're on not point to point, they're like in a straight line. It never fails. Every single night it does that, always. And I don't know why they do that. I don't know what the purpose is. But there was also
routine.
Huh? Routine?
It's a routine, I guess.
I don't
looks
know.
Like a cute routine or a game, or I don't know. But as far as messages go, yeah, I mean, it's all mixed. It's bizarre, and some in the case of some of the celebrities even that had some of these kinds of cases, getting a call from who's that? I think it was Eva. I'm going to get her name wrong. Eva Lupo. She was an actress before my time, but
I don't know.
Yeah, the uncle called the mother called in to check with the grandmother and everything. They're babysitting because their parents were actors, and she ends up getting a call that the little Ida and he sounds sick, not doing well. I got to talk to your mother, and so she tells the grandmother, and grandmother's like, and I forget if the grandmother spoke to him. I think the grandmother spoke to him too, and so the grandmother calls and says, he wants to talk to you, and they're like, he died 3 days ago, and he was just calling then. That's a fascinating one. You can kind of say that's almost like a time slip, and who knows? But in all these cases, I do think that commonality is something has crossed over in ways or allowed that to happen. I don't think it has anything to do with how much you loved anyone. I think that there's something else at play here, because a lot of people love a lot of people, and that never happens.
No.
And then there's other people who don't love people as much, and it does happen. So
it absolutely it does.
Definitely.
Yeah, I had
What's that?
I had a former teammate. I used to have a paranormal TV. I used to have a paranormal team, and this was 10 years ago, and she did something to me very nasty, and we weren't friends anymore. And what happened was about a year or so after we parted friends, she died. She was waiting for a liver transplant and she didn't get it, and she died. But she died while we were not friends. And what happened was, all of a sudden then, we used to be on the Hornet, USS Haunted Hornet all the time, stationed here in Alameda. And she was the one that got us on that ship, and we were there all the time. And so one day after she died, I got a phone call, and it said Hornet on my cell phone. And I thought, why am I getting a phone call from the Hornet? And so I didn't pay any attention, but I took a picture of it because I thought that was really weird, why I got a phone call from the Hornet. And then I got a phone call on my phone, and you could hear all the static, and I heard it was a woman's voice, and she said, "It's me," and then there was nothing there, and then a couple of days later again I got another phone call. "It's me, Nancy." And I thought, oh my God. And then we started doing, I used to, on my live shows, we would do ghost box sessions. And she was coming through on the ghost box, and the viewers heard it. I have it somewhere on one of my archive shows. She kept coming through on my shows. And Noreen, it's Nancy. And then one night, a psychic said, "Noreen, she wants your forgiveness. She wants you to forgive her. You need to forgive her, or she can't rest in peace." So on one of the shows one night, I said, "Okay, Nancy, I forgive you." And then I never heard from her again.
And that's something.
Yeah.
And so you had your own Phantom Menace. You could have been in the book.
Well, you didn't ask me.
That's Jimmy's fault. Yeah, well, that's definitely Jimmy's fault, and the reason it's Jimmy's fault is because I'm on here and he's not. If he was on here, then it would be my fault. So we have an agreement like that. So.
But yeah, I think if that happened to me, it might have happened to other people too. That there was somebody that passed on that felt bad of what they did.
All different things. One thing that we did find is that if your place is haunted, then of course the odds of a phantom call are much greater, and it begs the question of where does the call originate from? There's another time slip one that. But this was in an apartment building known to be haunted, and the girl saying she's going to come over, so she's on her boyfriend's house. The boyfriend gets a call, and he hears what instinctively he knows is him. I can't tell you how, and she didn't know how, but she knew too, and she heard it. But we'll get to that. But and it sounded like somebody having a hard time breathing, and hooked up to a machine, or and so he hears this, and the girl gets there, and he says, "I've been getting these calls." So then more calls come, and she listens to it and says, "Oh my God, this is you." And she tells us, I don't know how I know that, but anyhow, a month later he dies unexpectedly, some respiratory heart thing. And so that was a weird kind of, and people ask, well, why? I don't know. Was it, somebody will say, was that a mean thing somebody do? I don't know. That seems to be like the call that predicts 9/11. I'm not sure if it's agent driven at all. It could just be the freak result of open frequencies intermixing, which sounds like I know a lot about quantum physics, but I'm sure I would fail the introductory course if I had to take it beyond what I can repeat that other very, very intelligent people say, like Jack Sarfatti, which we should get to his story. But
oh yeah, I wanted to talk about that.
Yes. Oh, yeah. If you want to do Jack now, Jackson. So his examples, what we would call, it's definitely an unknown entity, but we would put it in extraterrestrial pile because of the nature of it. And so Jack and Jimmy usually tells the story, so I'm going to try my best. I'm not going to pretend I'm Jimmy though. Well, maybe a little. Wait, is Jimmy? No. I was going to get my hair. So when Jack was about 12, 13, but when he was a teenager, he was reading electronic, these manuals about electricity and stuff like that. Anyhow, I was reading a few magic books. I was pretty impressed with that. But anyhow, so Jack started getting these phone calls as a kid, and he would walk around like in a trance. And the mother remembers, a lot of these, a few of these calls happening. And anyhow, the mother finally grabbed the phone because he'd walk around like he's in a trance. And the mother said, you stop calling here or whatever. And the call stopped. But the gist of it was what they were telling him, or on the other side, they said that it's that a conscious computer was calling him from aboard a spacecraft. And follow me on, this is crazy, and you can say what you want about Jack, but he's no liar. But so this is what he hears, and it says, come outside, we'll and you're going to see the ship, or we're going to come by, something like that. So Jack does what any kid would do. He gets all his friends together, says, come on, man, there's going to be this ship at this time here. We got to come out there. And of course, nothing ends up showing. But in the calls, they told Jack a few things. They asked Jack if he would like to be part of an elite group of scientists who would discover some, earth-shattering way in which the world works, knowledge, that kind of thing. And it had to be his choice. And they asked him if they said they're picking out, I forget how many people, it was a whole 100 and something people, that they were going to depart something. I don't know. Not that they were giving him all this knowledge, but it implied like he was chosen. I don't know what that meant, but because that kind of implies that he didn't do it on his own. I think Jack would cheer that. I'm sure school and everything else was just as hard for him, and whether he's brilliant or not. But so these calls happen, weird enough, and 20 years later now we go. Jack is studying to be a physicist. That's what he's into. And in fact, it was exactly really at the 20-year mark that Jack discovered quantum science. I mean, he literally coined the term. So everything that he had heard in that phone call, about 20 years from now, you will join a small group of scientists, which he did. You can Google it. If you Google Jack Sarfati, you'll find that he is the guy who discovered or invented, whatever you want to call it. I don't think he invented it. Maybe the science parts of it, but quantum science. And he hung out like a lot of these guys did. Like Carl Jung hung out with. They all kind of hung out together, and even though all of them disagreed with all their theory, they all hung out together and they argued for physicists, just physiology, astrophysics, and that was the group. And and so it's amazing because Jack didn't just become a physicist. I mean, that would have been a cool story, a cool phantom message. Jack became a physicist. I mean, this guy, if you look him up on YouTube, he gives lectures to physicists. He is really, I don't mean that he's a smart guy, so everything he says is right. Obviously, there's a point where everyone has a theory. Obviously, my theories would just be guesses because I don't understand the science. Jack's theories would be based on, math, whether they're right or not, they're based on that. But so that's fascinating to me. And, Jimmy and I were quite shocked because the 20-year mark, and like I said, not just that he became a physicist, but the kind of physicist, one of the top. He's one of the guys. He's one of the, or women, but he's one of the groundbreakers for this new line of thought. And you know what he's studying now? What he's working on?
What?
Artificial. He's working on artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
He's working on the thing that called him. He's working on. He's working on consciousness, and could that be uploaded, and what does that mean? and all that, all really cool stuff. And some of his theories are really shocking, and even though you've heard them before, but the fact, the holographic universe and everything, and
Mm-hmm.
I hate those theories because there's some really smart people that back them, and it scares me because it's a frightening, bizarre thing. But the good news is, at least I don't know, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, some of those theories are they scare me because you see the people and you know how smart and cool stuff they're doing. You say, oh, I hope they're not right about that, But yeah, so that was a very interesting extraterrestrial one, and there's quite a lot of that departing knowledge, departing information. A lot of it, of course, is we own UFO literature is gobbledygook, gonna save the world, that kind of junk, and other stuff is very just, really, really bizarre. And that involves time slips and messages and phone calls with sometimes the cold survey. So, we have a saying, and you may have it too. It's the same whether it's UFOs or paranormal, right? If you hang around it long enough, and with UFOs, the saying is if you hang around, if you delve into UFOs long enough, something will happen.
Yeah.
For me it was constant calls by sergeants and different people that knew what I ordered and told me to stop. As a college kid, you're not gonna stop me. It's like you gotta get the police there to stop me. But
Bill, in your book,
yeah, I'm all of it.
do you have were
Yes,
there any other predictions? Were there any other people that had received predictions and they came true?
Well, the Dodleston case has a very interesting prediction that came true many years later, and that's kind of why we revisited the case, because there was a lot of things that at the time, in looking at what Ken and Deb documented, there was a lot of things that they, because in those days you had to go to the library. So you try to do some research and stuff, and you're like, and then you get bored, and they're young, and so there's some things that they never followed through all the way with. The research was a lot harder. I mean, some of it they tried, and of course they knew an English teacher in that case, but and we can get the particulars about it. But just as an aside, that's an example of just not having the technology to really now. We were able to go back and say, okay, these people that, they claim they were talking to, do they exist? And now with the internet, you could really, really go back, and we were able to confirm very, very specific details that were given in the book that really would have been, well, it would have been hard to find then, but the prediction part was what the case is about. It's over 300 fan messages in a period of about 16 months, and it was investigated by one group and one person. Ken and Deb really didn't. I mean, they didn't really get anything out of it, and I can vouch for that. Know what money in this business. But they didn't get any money out of this, nor did they really seek it. If you follow the events of why it came out, and if you're going to make it up, let me tell you, you sure would have left some part, just some of the truth. As Mark Twain said, truth is stranger than fiction, because fiction has to be logical. You can't write fiction and make it make no sense. But in real life, right? Real life, things just happen. It doesn't have to make sense. So, I do agree with that. So Dodleston was a case where the first group came out, and I read the what they came out with, and I looked at all their stuff. They said that they did not think it was real, but they did not know how it was done. This was in 1986, and Deb Oakes and Ken Webster, they're in Dodleston, England, and they rent a little cottage that they're going to renovate, and the renovation is what triggers things off. Is they pull up to the original floor and stuff. And anyhow, they borrow a computer from the school because Ken is a teacher there. And in 1986, of course, there's no internet, there's no nothing, there's no email, there's nothing. It's just the computer. It's not, it's a word processor. He was going to type some band lyrics because he was in a band, and he had a friend coming to visit. I think it was Deb's friend, come to visit, and she over the Thanksgiving break, she could use a computer. So anyhow, he brings his computer home, and all of a sudden he sees this weird file on it a few days later, and they're renovating and stuff. And he sees this weird file, he notices it, and he opens it up, and it's like this weird old Latin kind of like mice George Swart, and he's like, what the heck is this? So he takes it into his buddy at the school who's an English teacher and says, what is this? And the guy looks like it. He goes, oh, this is old English. And he goes, well, what do you mean? This appeared on my computer. He's like, what are you talking about? So this guy goes and he gets a few books and he's translating it. And so then more messages appear, and of course he's printing these things out and taking them to his friend teacher, and finally this guy Phil's like, what the heck is going on, and what's fascinating is they started exchanging messages, but the messages that were returned to him were returned like instantly, and they were on point. So it's not like somebody could let me prepare in advance some nice old English sentences, and then I'll somehow get it on their computer, which would be hard enough. But instead of that, it was even more bizarre, because it wasn't about preloading a message. This was a message that was having a real conversation in real time, almost like sending emails back and forth. But there was no mechanism like that. There was one technical way that it might have been done, and the equipment would have been extremely expensive, and you would have had to have been in a big truck outside the house. We're talking in 1986. And so anyhow, so figured out. And this goes on. They're talking to this guy, Thomas, T-O-M-A-S, and he says he's from the 1500s, and he lives in that cottage, and he's wondering what the heck they're doing in his home. And and he wants to know why the light box is there, and that's what he calls the computer, a light box. And so the first thing, of course, you wonder as you're hearing this is, well, how's this guy going to type on a computer? Well, as they go through it and try to find out and stuff, Deb has a dream. And when she has her dream, she actually meets them and is in that time frame, which, by the way, mirrors paranormal cases where we see the living haunting the living, where we see somebody has a dream, and that same person that's living, that's having that dream, is now haunting this other house and is dreaming of it and is saying, oh man, I had this dream. I went down the stairs and the people screamed, and the other people are like, oh my God, this thing came down. I don't know who it is. And, so we know the living haunts living that way, in that, I don't want to say haunt, in that kind of way. So in this way, this dream, to me, that's one way of transversing whatever you want to call it. And so anyhow, so she meets and they're talking, but anyhow, one of the things that was witnessed was his girlfriend, the guy in the 1500s, the girl that he's courting, who's quite disturbed by whoever these people are, or whatever. And so he explains that, hear the girl singing, and when she sings, the words come on the computer in old English. Now remember, you can't even read this. I mean, I've read all the old English, and you can't understand it. It's not like not like fake.
I'll tell you something, Bill. Let me tell you something. Bill, if you start watching those shows from BBC, the British Broadcasting, I read some of those messages on the internet, and I could read them. I could follow them because of watching these shows, the historical shows on BBC from England. Oh my goodness, that's how they talk.
Yes, well, some were quite bizarre.
But I understood them.
But in any event, that's amazing. At one point in time, the messages. He explains because they ask him how this is a whole lot to the story. One of the fascinating things, one of the things they want that the guy Thomas wanted to know the most. He didn't know what the material was on the desk. He didn't know what the thing was. It was a notebook with a plastic cover. And that fascinated me. That was really that was the big burning question on this thing's mind. Because I guess he could, they both could like kind of share the same space in a way. And that was his burning question. He says, I do not know what that material is. It's not wood. I have no idea. It was bothering the hell out of him. But, so at one point, so this guy says he gets the computer. Where does this come from? This light box? He says like a hole of light opened in the wall, and he said the devil himself, I thought, came out.
Wow!
But it wasn't the devil. So he sees whatever this is, this creature, right? Sounds alien. He says, I thought it was a devil, but it wasn't. He gave me this light box, So anyhow, this other character that goes by number starts coming on the computer and saying said certain things about an experiment and blah blah blah, and you're not going to be able to talk to Thomas anymore, and it's a big long hubbubaloo. So meanwhile, Gary Rowe comes up. The message on the computer says, "Get Gary, will understand." So they call Gary Rowe, and he's like the nicest guy in ufology, and he's been around for many years, very honest guy. And he goes down there, and he's mad because he thinks these kids are just out to waste his time and think it's funny or something. He just thought that was just his impression, just because they were young. I don't know. He always was paranoid about that. And he said he started seeing these messages, and he said, okay, if we're going to do this, he says, I'm getting rid of your computer. We're not using your computer, and we're not using any of your stuff. We're using all my stuff. And we're going to put this computer, I'm going to put a shield over it. Nobody's going to go near it. And this is how it's going to be. And we're going to open this tape, and we're going to down, we're all going to do it when everybody's here, and blah, blah. So he had it very controlled, and he puts the shield under it, and these messages still appear. Nobody's in the house. And he's like, oh my God. Wow. So then it gets worse, because the messages keep appearing, but they say keep sending them to Gary. And Gary says, all I can tell you is there were things told to me, he said, that no one knows but me. He said, not even my wife. He said, like, no one. And he says, this thing knew. But then there was one prediction, because Gary, of course, and I don't know, it was either the other group or Gary, but, and I think it was Gary, but said, because they wanted to prove, hey, if you're supposedly from the future or whatever, why don't you prove it? So they asked on computer, when is the next supernova, or when is, I believe is nova, and they gave the date and the year and the quarter, and then of course the case comes out and it's all forgotten and stuff. So as part of the revisit, we discover that prediction actually is accurate if you're it's exactly accurate if you're looking from outside towards the Earth. Then their supernova coordinates and prediction as to exact date was right on, and that prediction came true. So, Dodleston was a very, very bizarre case. Would I bet my life on it? I don't know, but I don't believe I don't know. That it's just so, there's, and the people who have been there since, too, anyone who's lived in that place have complained about horrifyingly high water bills, electric bills, things, all the regular paranormal stuff that you hear about. But there was many witnesses to that. I mean, Phil, who was the guy who was helping to interpret some of the stuff, I mean, they came there was stuff on the floor, there was painting on the walls. I mean, the stuff that they went through in 16 months was but it's one of those things, it's like when you ask a Bob Lazar question, it's one of those things where it's a really tough thing. That there's information missing that you don't know about because you weren't there. But I do know because I did read I did read everything that they put out about it, and I can tell you if I was making it up, I certainly would have cut a lot of things out of it. And in fact, Ken has commented on that. That he was stupid for telling the truth, because he said by telling the truth he made himself sound stupid, because anything happened within their experience that did not fit within what the public thought would be believable haunted, was criticized. And he said it really was probably a mistake in putting all that detail in there, and that's always, of course, a crapshoot, because like I said, truth is stranger than fiction. Fiction will be rejected if you do that. So,
Bill, did you ever come across anybody that had a terrifying message, or a terrifying message that's really scared them?
Well, besides, of course, the 911, well, the hearing yourself die over the phone is pretty scary, but I know. Let's see, other scary ones.
Maybe they were threatened through a phantom message.
Well, the extraterrestrial ones, they edge around that. They're actually, there was an interesting, this is, again, on the extraterrestrial side, happens to be, but one that was sent to us after the book. And it was an ambassador, actually, an Israeli ambassador, United Nations, and he was on a phone call. And the phone call was interrupted. And matter of fact, I would have played it, but I didn't. I wasn't able to get his permission in time. I don't know if he would have cared, but and he's talking with his friend, and it gets interrupted by what only could be described as sounds like this really weird monster kind of voice. And the typical indicator of this phantom was here too, which was he heard the weird voices and what it said, or what he thought it said. And on the other side, the other guy didn't hear any of that. He's like, no, I heard a little bit of static, but no, I didn't hear anybody talking at all. And so that's quite common, not only in cases of like an extraterrestrial bucket, for lack of better words, not only in those cases where there's calls like that where it's like and they happen to be talking about, it's usually when they happen to be talking about UFOs that kind of, that's why we say extraterrestrial phantom message, because of the context, because of course who really knows? Oh yeah, that sounds like an extraterrestrial. Yeah, that's got to be one. That's what they sound like. Yeah, we don't know. So we call it by context, and that's all we could do. So the when we believe it's but when it's when there's a phantom message case, when it was A little girl, for example, who interrupts a phone call, one of Jimmy's favorite, little girl who wants to play, interrupts a phone call. It's the same thing. It's the one person hears it and the other side is a little bit of static and they don't hear it. So that's where I go back to the modalities the same. You know, they're on the same bus. They may not know each other. They may not sit together, or they may, or they may at times, may not at other times. But the modality, the indicators, the characteristics are all the same across the board. They always are, never fails. So that was an interesting thing to see, those correlations that when we see whenever we see, in other words, time slips in the paranormal behave the same, whether it's an extraterrestrial time slip, whether it's an unknown entity time slip, whether it's a loved one time slip, they all seem to have a lot of the same stuff around them, you know.
What about the man who answers the phone and hears himself and then he dies?
Oh yes, that again, like a time slip. That's the one where we said with the girl in the apartment, and she comes over, and he just instinctively knows it's him, which is like a really weird thing. Because if I picked up the phone, right, and you heard some trouble breathing, you would never say, "Oh, that sounds like me in the future dying." You know, it just would never occur to you. So that to me, and in these, that's the other commonality in these kinds, in those phantom messages, are when the people hear the message, whether it's shocking or, you know, it doesn't matter, shocking, comforting, but it's that you instinctively know that what you're hearing is something different, that this is special. This is not your regular weird crank call or something, that this is an event happening, that you're hearing it real time, even though this is not the time. So the call, we don't know, you know, the question is not, you know, where is the call coming from? The question is, you know, when is the call coming from? So it, yeah, those are fascinating. But you mentioned other scary ones?
Yeah.
Ooh, I think they're all pretty scary. Let's see. Well, you know, a lot of the ones in conjunction with poltergeists, like the South Shields poltergeists, are very severe. But let me just see here. Cell phone picture. To me, well, this is scary. They're very, very rare, and it's, you'd expect a scary one to be, you know, called from one of these entities. But and maybe you alluded to this, but calls from your future self, very rare. But to me,
Wow.
those are one of the scariest things. I mean, unless they got something good to say, like, hey, Bill, don't worry, you're rich. Yeah. All right, now we're good. Not scary anymore. But other than that, but the actual cases of, you know, calls from your future self, you know, they were scary to the people. They weren't necessarily bad, but you know, it's as you would expect, an introspective kind of thing that you can't help, and but you don't really know the, you know, the why, or what is, or if it's telling you to avoid something or what. But that's another bizarre. I guess you consider that a time slip in a way too. But
how many cases do you have in your book?
We have about, I think there's about 60 or about 55, 60 cases, something like that. Which range from the unknown entities, you know, the people you know, the time slips, and then some theories and some other bonus cases. ran across trolls while writing this book, so that was, was a bizarre thing. But there's a few that are the, I would say, the phantom message at the optimum. I guess they're time elements, like one of the cases where she's driving and listening to the radio blasting and not paying attention really, and it was a railroad track, but and you can see the picture in the book. It's a I didn't have that picture, but as you can see the road, it's a little hidden the way the railroad was. So she didn't know. She was just driving there without paying attention, being very young, and she heard, and she makes this very clear that she heard, the voice yell for her to stop, and she said it wasn't mine. And it wasn't like the radio got interrupted. She said, no, it was a loud screaming voice from the radio. And if you heard her, I remember Jimmy and I were speaking, and she showed up, and she was kind enough to tell her story firsthand. But people were speechless when she stopped. But so coming through on the radio, which wouldn't surprise you, coming through on a phone or anything, but it doesn't appear that it appears that electricity certainly seems maybe one way of helping, or one way. Certainly isn't the only way, because we do see written letters left in mailboxes, which is really bizarre. So it's not just the phone calls and computers and text, and it's basically whether it's scroll on your wall or a doodle board or a radio, like in Jimmy's personal experience with the radio knob turning, and so that was one with timing, that scream, and others were at crucial times of someone getting hurt, but those are the rarer cases. The majority of the cases we found were, I think, more on the bizarre side. Or at least those are the ones we concentrated on. No, but we did go through all the research, and most of our cases are new. We had some classics in there. One that's particularly baffling is Charles Peck, which I don't know if you heard of that one. But
no.
It was a train ride, and ironically enough, the train crashed because of somebody on a text doing a text and not switching the text. And so Charles, sadly enough, he was on his way to meet his fiance, and so anyhow, he's on the train crashes, and of course, it's a disaster scene, and they're looking for, they're getting bodies out of their stuff, and they haven't found them, and they don't know. But all that night, his phone was calling all different loved ones, family and friends, and they'd pick it up and be static and it just kept happening. He kept calling like all night, and they found his body, and he was actually, I believe he's in the first or second car, and doctor said, oh, he died on impact. He wasn't alive for 30 seconds. No way he made a call, and to me, the bizarre, and they didn't find the cell phone. They tried to trace the signal, and the signal went to the first car too, but again, everybody's dead in the first car. And to me, the bizarre thing about that is, like, somebody could say, well, maybe it was an electronic thing or something, because you get desperate, and good science, you want to throw all those things out there. But what was very wild about this case was that he didn't call, his hairdresser, didn't call, the bakery. The only phone calls made from that phone were to family and friends. That's what's cool about it. Because that because that adds that extra. We look for multiple characteristics.
Yeah.
Some don't always have them, and if then you take the experience and say, "Wow, that's fascinating," and it probably happened that way, but it only happened once. It's very hard for any of us to really understand it. But when you look at something like this, you're like, "Wow, this is it's much different." So
wow.
Those. Yeah.
Wow. That's very interesting.
Because that puts the intelligence behind the characteristic. If it was just wow, his phone called numbers all night. He called the hairdresser. He called the barber shop. Then I'd be saying, you know what? I don't know. I'm not buying it. Sounds like something IT wise to me. It sounds like a Verizon mistake or something. It still could be amazing or wild or weird, but not quite as good.
Well, he called them, but did he leave?
See who he called.
Did he leave a message for those that he called?
No.
Oh.
And of course, they tried calling him, and it went right to voicemail.
Wow.
So, and again, so that's neat. And it has a few indicators, and then there's some like when the grandmother's text photo comes out, where you have where it's undisputable because now you have context, you've got a picture, you've got so you kind of can clearly see the message. If it's not grandma, then it's somebody posing as her, but it's much different than like my experience. I'll just tell you, which was really cool, but it could have been a coincidence. Me and my my magic, one of my best friends, magic friend, Phil, we didn't like hanging out in bars, so we used to go to the cemetery. And so we're at the cemetery hanging out, and yeah, I know, right? And so that's where you bring our dates to. That's why we never had any. No. So we were at the graveyard. We say, hey, let's do an experiment, summer and stuff. And so we put the radio on, and so let's set it to static, and because we're going to try to communicate with somebody here. And so we set it to static, and we just go about our business, probably drinking. We'll go about our business and let it go for about 20 minutes, because we're magicians, and we know, we got to do this right. We got to make sure that this isn't just coincident. We got to really let this static go, make sure there's no other station coming through. So this thing's static for like 20 minutes, and it's annoying too. But anyhow, so we get this grave. It was Mary, and it's like a little girl, and it shows the picture of the girl, and it was Mary. And I don't remember the last name. So we start saying, Mary, talk to us. Mary, of course, nothing's happening. We're trying this. So my buddy Phil goes, let's try one last time. Let's really give it a go. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Mary, speak to us, or something like that. And the radio goes like this. It goes, shh, blah, 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 shh. And we were like, what? we went right back to static. Oh. And we stood and looked at each other, and we let the static go because it was too unbelievable. And we let it go probably another 20 minutes because it only broke during that time. And
wow.
So again, but that's one layer. That's one indicator, right? So you had one indicator. It happened one time. Was it a coincidence? I don't know. If it happened 5 times, that'd be a little weird,
That's
but
crazy.
So it happened once, so it's hard to, do I know to this day? No, but it really is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But so there's different levels. Most of our cases, about 72% of our cases had witnesses, more than one person, or it was on a recorded device, or it was an elementary school. We had a haunted elementary school that they called the desk and leave messages to all the people working. Just say their name. That's it. Brenda. That's it. And it's like this weird, same like the extraterrestrial, same type of indicator, this weird kind of mechanical, kind of cold not evil or anything, just, and not, almost mechanical, but not like anything you quite heard. And what's bizarre is if somebody was sitting at a different person's desk, which of course wouldn't happen today, but back when this was going on, if somebody sat there, it would call them there. So it knew, but it would call all the different desks and leave messages. There was no harm going on, but it was, and they would warn it. If somebody's going on vacation, hey, this person going on vacation, you don't have to call their phone or, so you do have, right? It's funny, now, and that's why we did look at ones that were with other hauntings, because we did feel that they were important to the literature. But also, it's very fascinating when you have ones like Jack, I'm going to say his name wrong. Jimmy usually tells this one, Jack Froze or Jack Freeze, who dies, and then they start getting emails from him. And his emails, again, are saying information that wasn't known when he was alive. So, and so people check the account. Was his account hacked? No, it doesn't appear to be. And who would do that? And then did he arrange to have a service and emails for him? Well, he could have, except the content screws that up because it's talking about stuff that happened yesterday when he was dead. So he's communicating, and he's telling the guy to clean his attic because they were joking about how dirty the attic was when because he was going to renovate, and the guy who gets that email is saying, I never told anybody that because we just had that conversation. You know what I mean? It wasn't like we were going around telling everybody, oh, he made fun of my attic. It wasn't like a big deal. But the stuff he said in there, was, and it's really weird because, you talk to all the family members, they don't, there's, varying opinions. Some say, yeah, we think it's him, and some are just shaking their head like, we don't know. We'd like to think it's him. We have no idea, but it's really bizarre because, like, who would do such a thing? It would have to be, to do something like that consciously, first of all, you'd have to really hate somebody. And then if you did, the messages, just clearly, but it was really, they were very personalized messages. And even one message came and said that he couldn't get through to the other person's email, which is bizarre. And then eventually the emails just, they stopped and petered out, but it's really bizarre.
Wow.
And they were examined, and of course nobody could explain anything, and and that's as far as you get. Is we don't know how or what. They came from his account. His account wasn't hacked or whatever. But like I said, even if it was hacked, you wouldn't send those messages. If you wanted to be a jerk about it, you'd do something far more effective if you were going to do something like that. I don't know. And so not that I'm assuming that's what it was, but I'm just saying as you go through the whole process, it's just really bizarre because, and then that's where that has extra indicators, as I talked about. Like in my scenario, there's the static. So what does it mean? We don't know because it just happened, and that's all we have is the static. We don't have the static saying, blah, 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 I'm Mary. Now, if that happened, now we have this extra indicator, and then of course I wouldn't have got back in the car, it just ran out. So then you'd have an extra indicator. So in this case, you have that extra piece to it, which makes it really bizarre and really, really fascinating.
Wow, that sounds like a fascinating book. And anybody that wants to buy the book, you can go to, like I said, let me pull this up. You can go to, let me find it. You can go to Bill's website, halloftheparanormal.com for his books, or you can go to Amazon and let's see, I have your books. These are these are the books that you can purchase. They're all on Amazon. Oh gosh, well that's a fabulous show, Bill. Thanks so much, and I'm so glad we finally got on live tonight. Thanks for coming on the show. I'm really happy that I finally got you on the show. I knew about you 6 years ago when I first did a show with Paul Eno. And I don't know why. When we did the show on Lindley Street, the poltergeist on Lindley Street,
Yes.
and I don't know why I never reached out to you before, but I'm really glad I did, and it was really a pleasure to meet you, Bill. Thank you so much.
Paul probably said you can avoid them for about 6 years, but eventually you're going to have to, deal with them.
Oh, it was a pleasure to have
thank
you
you for
on the
having
show, and I really enjoyed talking with you.
Anyone wants to message us, you can go to bill@halloftheparanormal.com, and we reply to all emails.
And Jimmy, if you're still out there, hi. I'm sorry you couldn't make the show, but we had a good time. We missed you.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So thanks, Bill. Thanks so much, and good luck with your new book. It sounds fascinating, with a lot of stories in there that I would love to read myself. So I want to thank you again so much, and best wishes on your book. Thank you so much. I might have you on again if you don't mind next year.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah, and we gotta get you a book too. We'll have to get you a book.
Oh no, that's okay. I buy my book. That's okay, honey. You don't need to get me one. Thank you so much, though. Have a good evening. Thanks, Bill.
You too.
Good night. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show. That's fascinating. I've had so many experiences with messages from the beyond. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget next week. Don't have a show next week, but the week after, it's on witches, and then a UFO abduction, Benny and Barney Hill. That famous case. I believe they were the first ones that were ever that the story came out that they were abducted by UFOs, and I can't wait to do that story. So everybody, thanks so much. I know you guys were talking about BBC and those fabulous shows that are on BBC. I subscribe now to PBS, and oh my God, we just finished Mr. Selfridge. Oh my God, it's so good, Mr. Selfridge, and now we're on Downton Abbey. We just started that. That's my favorite channel now. The British Columbian Broadcasting. I love those shows. You guys have to see The Last Kingdom, Vikings, The Outlander. What was the other one? Oh God, I've seen so many of them. Toll Cross got me involved in that. I hope you enjoyed Bill. I really did. I've known about Bill for a long time, and this was the first time I had him on the show, and I would love to have him back. He's written some really awesome books. Toll Cross recently lost his dad, which I'm really sorry, honey. I'm really sorry for your loss. And besides getting these, those who have passed on, they still have energy, and they can still come to us in reality, and they can speak to us, and they can send messages and signs. And Toll Cross, I wanted you to know that to be aware of your surroundings, because they may be sending you a message that you're not aware of. And they still love you. Their love for you doesn't die. It's still intense. So keep your eyes and your heart open to see if you can pick up those signs. Their scent, their spirit lights, numbers. For some reason, those that have passed on, numbers mean a lot to them, like birth dates, anniversaries, notes. You may find something that was written and in the house somewhere, and then you finally find it. Technology through the radio, your phone. They utilize electronics a lot. Phone calls, but also there's other forms like pennies or dimes. They use that a lot. they'll move objects in your house, which has happened to me so many times. They hide things, and then eventually I find them. Drives me insane. Shadows from the corner of your eye. Temperature changes in the room. I've experienced those where a room will be warm and then I'll move into another spot. That just happened not too long ago, and it's cold. And smells, scents especially. A couple of weeks ago we were watching a show, and I smelled a sweet smell, and I didn't recognize it. I did not recognize that odor, but it was really strong, and it was right in that room, right by me, but I don't know who it was. And being touched, which happens a lot in my house anyway, being touched. So anyway, I want to thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate. I miss Royce. He's having so many issues. I don't know when he'll return, but I'm hoping soon. And I want to thank my mods for showing up tonight. Unique Annie, Chippetary, and I believe Renee was in also earlier. So let me do some shout outs, okay? Let me see if I can get this. And I hope I don't miss anybody. We had a nice show tonight. Jan Price, I believe Jan's new tonight. Hi Jan. Hi Tammy Heitzman. Hi Toll Cross. There you are, honey. Hi Beat 3 Airspace. Andrew and his trucking gnomes. Yay, you're back. Dust Bunny. Hi Dust Bunny. Hi Anita Ackerman. Hi Annie. Hi Chipper. Anybody else? Anybody else want to shout out? There you are, Renee. Thanks, Renee. Yay. I am Alpha. Yeah, I miss Royce. I sent him a message and I haven't heard back from him. I'll try and call him, but he's just, the issues are just... Oh, yes, Tollcross. Oh, my God. He knows all the... He's from Scotland. Jan, he's from Scotland. And he knows all the good shows. And I'm telling you, I have my channels all lined up, but we mostly hit the PBC. I am so hooked on BBC movie. Actually, it's the series. We absolutely love the series, and I can't wait to get back tonight to finish or continue watching Downton Abbey. I love that. You know, you got to give those shows, you have to watch the first episode and then the second one, and you're hooked. You are hooked. I love them. Oh, hi, Lily. Hi, Lily. How are you? Hi, Lori. Hi. Oh, Captain Shamrock. Hi, you're new. Sherry K. Montalbano. I'm sorry if I'm terrible at pronouncing. It's been a while since we've seen you. Oh, Captain, why, sure. Captain Shamrock from Ireland. Hello, Ireland. Anybody else want to shout out? Okay, so I guess I'll go. I've gotten 2 emails. J.D. Bambera, Italian. Hello. I got two more emails that these fellas want to come on the show, and I've got to check out. I got to check them out. I don't have any more time this year for shows. We've got shows in November, and I think I only have one for December. I can't remember. But January will come back. January, I really am hoping to do 2 shows with Vanessa. She's my favorite remote viewer, and I love doing Unsolved Mysteries with her. So she said she would come back on the show. Oh, hi, Susie Farrell. Oh, thanks so much. I'm glad you like the show. Leah Grader. Oh, November 7th will be your... Oh, so sorry, Lily. That's so sorry. Okay, guys. JB64. Thank you. Carl White's out there somewhere. I know you are. All right, guys, I'm going to go, okay? And I'm just so happy I got the show going. It was really a fiasco tonight. YouTube did not recognize my broadcast. and it was awful, and I'm just really glad I got the show up tonight. All right, guys. So I'll see you in 2 weeks, huh? Not next week, but the week after. Okay. Be safe out there. I love you guys, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you being here when I have my live shows. Thank you so much. Don't forget, you can subscribe. All you have to do is click that little red box there, and you can subscribe to the channel, and then it'll let you know when the show's going live, so you don't miss anything. Okay. Also, you can send me an email, ParanormalZoneTV@gmail.com. If you have any suggestions for a show, go ahead and please send me an email. Okay. So I'm gonna go now. Okay. And thank you, Lily. Okay, love you guys. Love you so much. I'll see you in 2 weeks, okay? Good night. Love you guys. Good night.